Hello, and welcome to the Power of Brand, Unlocking the Mind of the Consumer. My name is Vanessa. I am a Senior Vice President at IMI International. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot of new faces in the crowd and some that keep on coming back for more, and we really appreciate all of you. So thank you so much. For those of you where IMI is a new name, just a little bit about us before we get to what you're really here for, which is more about you. We are an international independent insights marketing and insights consultancy with the core purpose of insight driving profit. Our focus is to uncover the insight that you need to help move you forward, to make strong decisions and move your business forward. It's insights, not data, and always partner first mentality, looking to uncover what do you really need to know to move you forward. In terms of the insights from today, a lot of the insights from this presentation come to you from IMI's Pulse suite of tools, where we are actively in market, looking to engage with consumers. We're looking at multiple data points over thousands of different passion points, hundreds of different categories, hundreds of different brands, and multiple different demographic breaks so that we can understand and we can help our clients understand truly who to target, how to connect, where to be, and what to say. So before I jump into the presentation, just a couple of housekeeping notes. One is if you have a question, please use the Q&A button at the top of your screen, or it could be at the bottom of your screen as well. And I can get to some questions at the end of the presentation. And this deck, as well as the recording, will be in your inbox on Monday at the very latest, so that you can dive into it at that point in time as well. So let's get into it. This is why you're really here. 3 key things that we're going to be diving into today. What's inside? 1, consumer sentiment. Let's do a dive into the financial health of consumers. We're going to do a broad view, but then also look into financial health and look at consumers' intentions and realities, because then you actually know if they are willing to connect or what state of mind consumers are in. And then connecting with them, we're going to unlock really, truly what's on people's minds. And spoiler alert, it's a lot. And then the final thing we're going to go through is driving purchase. So core themes to driving purchase now. And we're going to touch on, we're not going to go deep into it, but we're going to explore the say-do gap, because intentions don't always meet reality. So let's get into it. We are constantly bombarded by what's in the news today. And I don't know about you, but every time I turn on the news, there's violence, there's recession, wars, job loss. There is so much that is going on in the world today that we are constantly being giving the messaging about. But what's going on in the minds of North Americans? The concern today among North Americans is actually not excessive. So we tend to look at it as most concerned in my lifetime. Now, people are always going to be concerned about finances. 68% of people actually look for deals on a regular basis. So money is always on the mind, but we look at most concerned in my lifetime. And you can see in Canada and the US, the numbers are quite consistent, except for the ability to afford living day to day is heightened in the US. But for perspective, in April 2020, financial and personal health concern was double what you're seeing at these current levels. So that just puts everything into perspective for what our consumers are thinking about right now. And the emotions felt in the past week: happiness, love, excitement, passion, stress, anxiety, depression, fear. So we're feeling both sides of the coin. But the fact is that the negatives don't outweigh the positives. And this was not always the case as we were tracking consumer sentiment all through the pandemic and years past. So let's dive a little bit deeper. In the news, 2 years talk of a recession ensuring our financial stress. It's all the time. But how crushing is it for consumers? And what's the impact now and in the near future, so you understand how open consumers are? So most concerned in my lifetime, 15% financial health. But as you can see, that's down 8% since February. So this is November 2023 versus February 2023. So the concern is declining. And the most concerned ever for the ability to afford to live day to day, it's not surprising that it is the lower income group that are most concerned to live day to day, but it is surprising that 75% don't have the same concern. So it is a point of perspective. And the reality is about 4 in 5 are currently not severely concerned about their financial reality. And people are going out and they're experiencing life. This is what people intend to do more of in the next 12 months versus July 2020. Live sporting events, live concerts, live festivals. And obviously in 2020, there was a want and we couldn't do, but look at how heightened it is now. There is strong, continuous demand for living life and attending events. And this is exemplified by everything that we're seeing as well in terms of breaking the box office, record attendance across all factors of live events. And there is no presentation. My 12-year-old daughter would be very proud of me right now without mentioning the impact and the excitement of Taylor Swift. And I will admit, I am a bit of a Swiftie. And they want to travel. If you look at intentions to travel inside your country, it's the same as outside your country right now. And as we recall, in 2021 and 2022, most people were saying they're going to travel within their country. And that's still coming out of the pandemic. But now people are branching out. They want to get outside. They want to go and do things. They want to explore life. And the reality is that people are purchasing. The spend is there. Buying a house or a condo, buying a truck or an SUV, buying a recreational product. Now, we do see a little bit of softness in terms of the attention to buy a vacation property. So there are some declines, the larger the burden. But the fact is that the spend is there. People are going out and people are living life. So the key insight, financial stress is not excessive. It's not as excessive for consumers as we're hearing. The spend is there and people are excited to live. So what is your brand, your product, your service doing to connect and bring them in? And people intending to do a lot more in the next 20 to 24 months will be under 45 years old and of the higher income, 100,000 plus. But the point is, things are not always what you hear. And things are not always what you think. You have to dive in to the insight to truly understand what's going on in the consumer's mind, because it's generally the loudest in the room that tends to take over. Health scares, financial turmoil, and lockdowns during COVID really helped reprogram and accelerate our individual and collective resiliency. The in the news today is not driving the desperation we experienced in 2020 to 2022. And it's also indicative of people really feel true to the fact that I'm healthy, I feel good, I can live, I want to live life, and I want to get out there, putting things into perspective. Now, when understanding how to connect, you have to dive below the surface to truly uncover what matters. So here's how we look at it. It's an unbiased approach, analyzing what's on people's minds in their words, unlocking the mind of the consumer. Over 2 million interviews since February 2020, open-ended discovery. It's an ongoing process to uncover trends and issues affecting the consumer today. The questions that we would ask unaided: what's the most important issue in your life? Most important issue in your family's life? Issues that face your community today? And all of the issues and themes stem from statements made by the consumer, what's on their minds. And it continues to evolve with issues coming and going. But today, we evaluate 68 different sub-themes on a biannual basis. And then we dive in through IMI 24 when there's a specific question we really want to get into. And these are rolled up into 5 core themes: money and economy, health, social, digital technology, as well as environmental. And on people's minds at any one time, it's a lot. And thankfully, it's not all in the news. And this is outside the day-to-day of friends, family, as well as children or your jobs. The reality is that each person has over 20 issues that they think about and they care about in the US as well as in Canada. And the number of issues generally doesn't change by demographic. You'll see here in the US, the number of issues doesn't change by demographic in a big way. You do see a little bit of nuances the older the demographic profile, and you do see some nuances when we look at the lower income cohort. And it's the same thing in Canada. The average issues by demographic, there are a lot of issues by demographic. What we do see in Canada specifically is the younger Gen Z has 18 issues on their minds. And that's what's pulling down the 21 number that you're seeing there. So the older you get, the more issues you actually are thinking of. So now let's look at gender difference between women and men specifically. So in Canada, of 68 different issues tested, how many do you think are more important to women than to men? 34, 51, or all 68? All 68. The reality is that women do care more than men, but how much more? About 17% more. So women do care more about all issues more than men. And the point isn't women are better than men, men are better than women. The point is you just need to understand what's on the minds of people that you care about, depending on your vantage point, depending on the category you're in, the brand you're in, and who you're looking to connect with. And the point is also that people don't just care about the environment only, or money, or homelessness. They're thinking about a sea of issues, including the ones that keep bubbling below the surface that we continue to capture in our analysis. So now think about how and why it's so difficult to break through with your brand message, with all the things going on in consumers' minds. So now, although the number of issues doesn't change, there are nuances depending on your vantage point. And everybody on this webinar today will have a different vantage point by which they're looking at the data or need to look at the data to find the insight. So let's look at Canadians. The top issues for Canadians today under each of the different subgroups is money and economy, affordable housing, corporate profits and big business. There's a lot of push towards small business and local right now. Economic stability in general, health, mental health. But the good thing here is that people are starting to do things to help with their mental health. So although the concern is high, people are actually taking action to do something about it. The healthcare system and access to healthcare services. I don't know when we haven't talked about the healthcare system and access to healthcare services. And on the social side of things, homelessness is a top issue for Canadians. Hunger, food scarcity, as well as bullying continues to be a top issue. Under digital and technology, cyberbullying, it's there, it's prevalent, it's everywhere. Online privacy and excess screen time. People are really looking to regulate their screen time and trying to get outside more and have connection live more than on screens. And the environment, climate change is obviously top of mind and something that we also hear in the news, global warming as well as pollution. When we look at the top issues for Americans today, there are a lot of similarities. These are the top ones for Americans. There are some differences, but there are mainly similarities. But when we look at what's on the rise, so good to know what's happening now and what's on people's minds, but what's growing and what's declining. So in the US specifically, mental health is growing. The ability to afford housing and pay for where they live now is on the rise. So the point is just to understand what you are looking to achieve, know the business that you are in and the insight that you need to uncover, and then go and find what really matters and the trending that you're seeing so you can also understand the impact on your business at any given time. And globally, we're not all concerned about the same thing. When you look at different countries around the world, there are different things that come to the top in terms of concern. Access to clean drinking water. Bullying and cyberbullying does come up across multiple countries, but there's retirement and lack of pension. Income disparity, video game obsession in China specifically. So now if you're sitting on this webinar and you're part of a global team, now think about when you're asked to use global assets. Now consider, are those global assets going to resonate in the market in which you are activating? So know what's on the minds of the people that you care about, because that's going to drive action. There are many similarities between what women and men worry about and care about. However, suicide is more prevalent for women. It's more on their minds. And reliance on social is more on the minds of the male cohort. So those are two key differences. So dive deep to uncover what matters. Top of mind for Gen Z, suicide, racism, social media-induced anxiety. And there are a lot of brands right now looking to connect with the Gen Z cohort. And we always talk about the environment as it relates to connecting with Gen Z, but these are top of mind more so than the rest of Canada. And those not born in Canada, very consistent when you look across the board, except for COVID-19 does pop its head back in. So the point here is, don't just look at these and say, this is what I'm going to go towards. It's truly understand who you're looking to retain, who you're looking to recruit, understand what matters, and really look to connect in with that. And it's not just picking the issue. It's picking the theme that aligns with your brand and demonstrating your consistent approach to this theme. So aligning with what matters, committing to at least 3 years and activating to be able to resonate with the consumer, and activating consistently. It doesn't mean always on, but in a consistent manner. It's the only way to connect and build your brand. And remember that it's message before the medium. So understand what message it is that you're looking to connect with, and then look at the medium by which to amplify. So now in the last section, let's look at the say-do gap a little bit. So care about is one dimension, but it's also about cross-referencing and understanding what drives purchase, because attitudes and emotions don't always translate into behavior. There is that ever-prevalent say-do gap, and I know that we all have these in our lives as well. So let's look at 4 core themes that are driving purchase right now. Made locally, support local, and that's when I was talking about the global versus local reach. Healthy, it fits the desires for everyone who wants to be healthy right now. Cause and charity reasons, there are things that are very close to people's heart that will drive purchase. And influence, seeing a friend buy or use really drives consumer purchase right now. But watch out for that say-do gap, because intentions aren't always aligned with reality. People want to eat healthier and only eat healthy foods, but it doesn't always play through. Look at the numbers. In Canada, 64% say they only eat healthy foods. So this isn't intentions. This is they only eat healthy foods. 77% eat candy. 82% say fast food. And there is some healthy fast food. But 82% and 77% versus 64. I'm not sure how the math adds up there. And look at Gen Z. They are actually the worst offenders when it comes to the say-do gap, when it comes to healthy eating and healthy intentions. And unfortunately, there are gaps in attitudes and behavior when it comes to charity too. In Canada, specifically, 93% of Canadians believe it's important to support a cause. 45% actually did something about it in the past 12 months. And we know that the way that they do something about it shows up in very different ways depending on their age cohort. And Laura Janes talked a lot about that in our not-for-profit webinar this year. But the reality is that people will buy when you align yourself with an issue or a theme. But you have to make sure that it's relevant for them. You have to amplify it, and you have to make it easy for them so that they actually pay attention. See the top here in the chart on the right-hand side? The product supports causes that make me feel good. So understanding what makes them feel good and then aligning yourself with that, pushing it forward and amplifying will help you break through all the sea of issues that they're thinking through, and they won't just revert to price. So who do you think most actively buys to support causes or themes they care about? Is it Gen Z? Is it millennials? Is it Gen X? Or is it boomers? It's actually the millennial generation who most actively buy to support causes or themes that they care about. Average number of causes or themes millennials purchase because of is 10. And it's actually the younger millennials, 25 to 33, that are leading the charge. So bringing them in early will drive loyalty for years to come. Now, we know that Gen Z constantly talks about purchasing because of cause. Now, what they're doing right now is they're volunteering their time towards cause. The purchasing transitions over once they get into the workforce. So you can see here that if you get them early as well, then you can transition and they will purchase because of the cause that you are aligned with. So what's essential is to understand who your high value target is, understand the doers, dissect those intentions versus the behavior, that say-do gap, then uncover and connect in with one or two things that will drive your brand forward. Get really tight on who to focus on, how to connect, where to be, and what to say. That's truly where the magic happens. And at the end of the day, keep this in mind, it's all about me. How does this affect me? What's the benefit to me? How does it affect my family? People are concerned with what's going on in the world at large, but they do localize their concern. And case in point, you're probably looking to relate this content to what's going on in your world right now. So four things or a few things I just want to leave you with before I take some questions. One, don't be swayed by everything that you hear. Study the people that you care about. Truly know what matters to them, what's on their mind, how they're feeling right now. Understand attitudes and intentions, but study behavior. Define your message. What are those one or two things that you're going to escalate, that you're going to align yourselves with, and you're going to amplify? And what are you going to say about it? Because how you say something definitely matters in terms of making the action that you're looking to happen bring to life, and amplify it. And lastly, build your brand. Trust is the number one driver of purchase. Trusted brands are number one. So if you're not building your brand right now, make sure you put into process how you will do it. And if you do have a trusted brand, Ensure that you retain that trust with your consumer at every touch point. Now, after you've thought about all the different issues on your mind, and sorry to bring many to light that maybe you were thinking of, what's one thing that you took away, or you might look at just a little bit differently when you close out this presentation today? The power of brand, unlocking the mind of the consumer. Thank you so much for joining me today. So we did have a couple of questions. I'm just going to check on the time. We did have a couple of questions that came in upon registration that I'll get to, and then I see that we also have some question in the Q&A when we have a little bit of a joke about about Taylor Swift. Yes, I understand that Travis is very popular too. However, nobody beats Taylor right now specifically. So let me just get to a couple of the questions that we had upon registration. The first one was, I'm a global brand, but I'm also being asked to leverage platforms for efficiency. Are there themes that do cross-resonate? And I did touch on this in the presentation a little bit. The key thing to look at here is there are some global concerns and issues that do resonate across multiple countries, but the magic and the action really happens when you localize them. So if you are looking to work with a specific platform, understand within your local region or your local area how to effectively localize that and bring it closer to home to the people that you're looking to influence. The second question was, we see demographic, but do you see anything by category? And that's a really good question. Depending on the category, and we did dive into a couple of categories. We know that there's a lot of people from multiple categories that are on this call right now. So if you have a specific question about the category that you're in, please feel free to reach out. We have a lot of data points that we can definitely mine to help you out. And there may be nuances depending on the category by which you're looking. So a more fast purchase, a short-term category versus a longer-term category. There might be some nuances, so definitely important to sort of dig in and really understand what helps. And the third question we had was, are you saying that I should build my brand on an issue? And that's definitely not what we're saying here. It isn't absolutely integral to build your brand on itself with a position that fills a need, serves attention, fits a desire, serves a want, or that happens now, or perhaps one that doesn't exist yet, but could be instrumental to serving attention that's going on in the consumer's world. This can help lead the way. Absolutely, understanding the frame of mind of your consumer, understanding what's on their mind can definitely lead the way in terms of innovation. It can also feed into how you accelerate your brand and the different supporting mechanisms in which you leverage to move your brand forward. So those are the three questions that we had upon registration. We do have another question here. Influence. You mentioned friends specifically. Does this mean word of mouth from friends is more important than word of mouth from influencers? That's really interesting. And the example is, I bought these frozen meatballs because a friend served them to me, and not because I saw a TikTok promoting them from a cooking for my family influencer. Frozen meatballs. That's funny that you use that as the example. So each do play a role. Word of mouth is extremely important when it comes to building trust. It's extremely important because when a friend or a family trusts your brand, then you have that relative influence. So it does necessarily play a role, and it does create that groundswell of momentum that you see. From a top line perspective, influencers definitely play a role, but you have to know how to leverage them and when to leverage them, and also how much to spend. because there a lot of times brands will spend a lot on a celebrity influencer, but they're not necessarily getting the ROI that they need. And happy to dive into that a little bit deeper with you at another point. So those are the questions that we had today. Thank you so much again for joining Unlocking the Mind of the Consumer, part of the Power of Brand series. We do have more webinars coming up. We'll have a focus on youth coming up in December and much more slated for 2024. So thank you so much for joining. Any questions, please feel free to reach out. And again, you will have the deck in hand at the beginning of next week.